Order, we'll begin with roll call.
Delaney,
Present.
Carson,
Present.
Reed present, Converse,
Present.
Halen,
Present.
Bentley,
Here.
Otis.
Here. Item number 3 on our agenda is approval of minutes of May 3rd, 2021. I will ask for a motion to approve.
So motion.
A second.
And second. Any discussion? Amendments, changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Item number 4 is audience items. It doesn't look to me like we have anybody here to present to the commission. So we'll move on to item number 5, which is update on Regional Park Master Plan.
Yeah, in your packets tonight is the latest concept from Confluence. It took all of the nitty-gritties that we got from the stakeholders since the last concept, and we've kind of polished it up. We've touched base on parking a little bit, took a little bit away. We're still within the realm of what's acceptable, and we're still on the high side, but it did give us a little bit more green space and just a little bit more wiggle room for adding some storage for each of the different user groups around the park. So you can kind of see that on the northwest corner. The parking lot was reduced a little bit, and then that placeholder little yellow triangle is supposed to show storage that would be primarily for the soccer club. But no, I guess this would be one of the last times for discussion as a commission before we move forward with something more final and really council gets its paws on it and we start talking about phasing and funding and things of that nature.
Anyone have any questions?
Do we have a better idea of what something would be?
Sure, so right now, that'll certainly be in the last phase. So that will probably be like last dollars realistically. But there we're looking for, it's gonna be a multi-use building. Are you familiar with like the Nature Lodge at Raccoon River Park, West Des Moines? Something like that where we're looking at hosting special events, like breakfast with Santa, things like that. Also, it would be kind of the city's prime rental facility, kind of overlooking that pond. So we're really thinking, family reunions, class reunions, maybe weddings as well. But then also it would be equipped to have some fitness classes as well. So we do yoga, things like that, meeting spaces as well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean, my only thought when I saw the dog park was next to that was what all would we have there, but with the pond there, I figured that would be more the focal point and the back side of the building with dog park area.
So you're saying just even any more of a buffer that we could do?
Yeah.
Perfect. No, absolutely.
So that's the space that's demarcated for the dog park. That doesn't
Right,
all
yes.
have to be
Right.
dog.
Yeah.
These are placeholders.
And, maybe something that hasn't been totally thrown your way black and white, but Confluence, when they met with council last month, kind of where that dog park went, we've talked about how this is going to be a tiered facility. But if there is the chance to minimize the need for tiering, be able to take advantage of the natural slope a little bit, that would be one amenity here that we could do that. So that is kind of the thought there, that would be more of a natural rolling as well and less abrasive to what's already there in terms of grading.
Jason,
From my input, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
From my input, I really think that as much as humanly possible. I truly do believe they have maximized this space. My only hesitation at all is what happens if the grading is not possible and we lose the soccer field or we lose the softball field or we lose some parking. I am a little trepidatious about over-promising and under-delivering with this plan. Is that a possibility, or are they pretty sure that they can put all of this in, even though they understand that there will be some grading that drives some decision-making?
I have personally never gotten an ounce of hesitation from the consultants that this would work, that this wouldn't work. Now, if obviously as we go forward, we all know sometimes things happen, and maybe something like that does happen. I don't foresee it right now, but when we get to that point, I think we would have to call an audible and adjust the plan. And maybe that means obviously something gets left out in order to, fill something. But I think it's hard to have that conversation without knowing exactly in the park it is, what we're losing, but yeah, I guess as unlikely as it is, that is a scenario that perhaps we should be prepared for.
Okay, I just didn't know how likely or unlikely it was. I feel much better with you saying that it's unlikely.
Sure.
Do we have any estimated costs back yet?
We have seen an initial, and before we really go forward with that, we want to implement kind of a phasing and really kind of how we would like to fund it as well. Primarily the phasing too. That would be the first number that people would see, and so I believe that is our next work session.
Yeah.
Right, Dave? In
Yeah.
June.
So love this. There's still a lot of unknowns, I guess. The earthwork is going to be,
Well, that's
An
what I was saying.
amazing
I mean, anything's possible.
It's gonna be a
With the
gigantic
retaining
number.
walls and
Yeah.
everything, but then that obviously has costs, so I would that they're taking that consideration, these costs. So.
yeah, that's all in it. That would essentially be phase.
Yeah.
And then, because it's going to be that much work, but they were going to kind of sharpen the pencils to get more updated costs based on what they're currently doing. And we're going to talk about the next work session, and then likely at the council meeting, because I was actually thinking about that, and I don't particularly know the exact even number within 5 million, but it's high. I mean, 5 million standard deviation. It's
So they're looking
tens
at
of
costs
millions.
and phasing, like proposed
Yes.
phasing, so I would imagine earthwork would be first, and maybe the development of the field and things like that.
Yeah, and a level at a time, because it's, because of the terracing that's going to have to happen, it would essentially be, you would kind of develop a level of time because of the slope. And so that's what they're trying to put together. If anybody had an end loader, scraper, we could probably start now and get done by next year at this time.
Any other questions? Okay, cool. You're not asking for any action from us at all, just
No, just this.
informational?
Just one more round of feedback. Yeah, no, I will pass that along, and we'll make sure the community building has no idea that there are dogs next door. We'll plant a forest in between.
Okay, then, if there are no more questions, we'll move on to item number 6, which is update on Lost Lakes Park Phase 2. I'm assuming that's you, Jason?
Yeah, it's gonna be me tonight, I think. No, as we get ready for fiscal year 22, one of the projects that council identified in my department is Phase 2, that's the final phase of Lost Lakes Park. So I am preparing to issue an RFP to get with playground folks. So essentially, Phase 2 completes the park, and it's going to be safety surfacing, landscaping, playground equipment, and some sidewalk connections. As you can see there, this is exactly what's in the CIP. So costs, everything like that. Now I know I'm trying to go back and slowly watch all of the Parks Commission from, I think I'm somewhere in 2017 right now, and I think I just saw one where you guys talked about Lost Lakes for the first time. So as I prepare to do this RFP, what feedback do you have for me in regards to equipment you'd like to or not like to see? Keeping in mind, this is a neighborhood park. So, there is, and I'd be happy to have the conversation of kind of things that you might see at a neighborhood park versus a community park. Just so we don't dream too big. I mean, you can see the number on this page. We can't dream too big, but we can certainly put something really in Lost Lakes Park.
Before we go there, I'm wondering if there is a planned entrance off of Broadway, or if this is the sidewalk entrances from Lost Lakes neighborhood.
Yeah, sidewalk connection only.
Okay.
Truly neighborhood.
Yep.
Well,
Would it be restrooms there?
There is already one of the few things that's out there is the structure that would hide a Kaibo portable restroom. So, yeah,
So kind of
not
like
modern,
Water
not
Park.
modern restrooms, but yes, a portable situation.
Hey, Jason, can you give me a little information on that? I understand that it's cost effective, putting in the Kaibo and stuff like that. Is there any long-term benefit to putting in water there, whether it's, future development or a more modern restroom that can be utilized with trails that go by there?
Sure, I do know.
Is there,
Actually, right now it is piped for water because there is a drinking fountain in there, so that is a possibility. As for the decision for seasonal restrooms versus more modern, I don't know the decision making that went into that back when phase 1 was completed. I would have to do a little bit of digging and see. It may have just been a cost.
it was a
Same.
sewage, yeah, the sewage was, and the upkeep, I believe that was the two biggest things, Ashley. I mean, we would love to have restrooms at every park, honestly. But to be able to do even phase 2, I mean, that's probably a number would be close to what it would take to get the infrastructure in there to be able to have a restroom. So if I remember correctly, it was just said, okay, let's get more amenities, quality of life amenities. Not that restrooms aren't good to have, but if it is a neighborhood park, hopefully it's conducive then to being a little closer to home and then having the Kaibo out there as well with it. So it's a great question, but it is one that just the cost is pretty outrageous on that.
I just wanted to be clear. I know a lot of people did not want a Kaibo, and so I wanted to make sure that there was an explanation for why the seasonal restaurants were there instead of having full plumbing. So with that said, I would really like to see a non-traditional playground structure. So I'm talking about more of like either a nature-based structure like they have at Jester Park, or even something like several times I noticed in comments that we've received over the past, people have mentioned kind of like a Ninja Warrior type course, where you've got like a small rock wall and maybe a rope bridge and, some untraditional monkey bar kind of thing. I'd love to see something like that.
Steve, do you remember any of the amenities that were dreamed up in the community visioning? I remember this park hosting a gaga ball pit.
Yeah.
But there were a
Well-
bunch of fun ideas that are well outside the scope of what we're looking at here, but anything from there that we could include might be.
No, I think one of the items in the community vision was a splash pad, and splash pad is something that would be going in the regional parks complex. The Gaga Ball, which I don't know what that is, and pickleball was another thing, but that's potentially destined for the regional parks complex. Think of as many things as there were in that community visioning plan for that park. I think a lot of them are being covered potentially in the regional parks complex.
That was the real dream big one they had that had a bunch of stuff crammed into it. And I know we've incorporated it in the regional park, but curious if there was anything else that I'm forgetting.
But I think it did still contain traditional equipment.
Okay.
And when I think of traditional equipment, I think of what's like in Leonard Park, for example.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So Jason, is your plan to get bids back with pictures and prices, and then let the commission take a look, and is that a decision that's going to be?
I would probably, I would come to them with a recommendation of what I've received. But yeah, there would be a chance for feedback.
And I can just share some, if you haven't made it through all the tapes yet. We talked about this over a few meetings, and some of what we talked is pretty relevant today, because what we really were wanting was like a little different play experience in town, and that we saw this as an opportunity to provide that. So we did push back a little bit on some of the traditional playground equipment in those meetings, and based on this conversation, I don't know if it applies as much anymore, because we do have this other plan to get some other experience. But to Ashley's point, maybe if there were some concepts from Snyder that had a little different twist on that, slide swings, that we would probably appreciate that. And we did get, in the course of that, we got some concepts back from them, but I think they still, I don't know, Kelly, if you remember, I think they still were pretty traditional. They still didn't provide us a lot of different types of experience. It was still kind of what you see around town and most playgrounds.
If you recall, did you see 3 options?
That's my memory.
Okay, I think I've seen those, and of course, the pricing 4 years ago, it's gonna be vastly different, so yeah, that's why I'm having to go through this process all over again, but, no, okay, so I am pretty familiar with what you guys have seen back.
I think we would have liked to see maybe something a little more outside of the box back then, but I recognize, as Steve already mentioned, it complements now this other plan we didn't have work, so we do have more variety through that now.
I think you have a unique opportunity to be right kind of on the edge of town as people are coming in, west, along a busy street, Broadway, to do something that's kind of eye-catching too, and maybe different.
Public art would be, I know that's not playground equipment, but with like the Lost Lakes name, I think it would be kind of fun if we had kind of a lake theme. There was something out there that would tie that in, and I'm not that creative or haven't been to many parks like that, but I know there's in Des Moines, there's like a giant fishing pole with the that look, but like something that, I don't know, if they're like a big boat that kind of rocks when the kids are on it, kind of like the seesaw effect, or I don't know, just something different that makes it fit the name of the neighborhood,
Sure.
maybe. But I do really like the Ninja Warrior style idea too. And I'm really excited for these residents that this is finally going to happen.
Yes, so kind of on the timeline, so we've seen what the total is, it's roughly $203,000. Mid-American did donate $10,000 to this project, and we were awarded that the past month. So any money that I can secure that's not from Lost means that Lost money gets to go towards the next project. So
Lost money.
Lost part, yes. So where I'm going with this, a timeline for maybe when we're hopefully seeing shovels in the ground is roughly October 1st. Reason being, between Wellmark and Prairie Meadows Community Betterment, between those two, we have 2 grants out for $100,000 total. The Prairie Meadows one has stipulations of time and project, meaning we could start on October 1st. And if I can get $75K from Prairie Meadows, I will start the project on October 1st. So stay tuned on that. I hope that I can tell you guys that I acquired $100,000 the next time I talk to you. So no, I think that's about all I have for Lost Lakes Phase 2, you guys.
So I just wanted to make one comment, and that is when we first, not long after we moved to town and we live in Lost Lakes, the police department came out and showed a movie in that park. And I just thought that was really cool. And I know that there's a lot of green space out there toward that one end. I wondered if there was some kind of a structure that could be built. It could just be poles or a U-shaped or something like that, that a canvas could be stretched over. And that would be a distinctive thing, I think, that has been done in Lost Lakes that maybe could be continued.
I will say, as a department, I have just acquired an outdoor movie system that includes a blow-up screen.
Oh.
So I will have one that can go all around town, if that kind. But yes, that would be an excellent location for me to go out and set up and do a movie in the park. Yeah, it's a 16-foot inflatable screen, so it'll be, a lot of people will be able to see it.
And just as someone that answers the phone at City Hall, just be mindful that there are people that back up to this. And so anything that you put back there may or may not negatively impact their views. Now, albeit they know there's going to be some sort of a playscape there, just be mindful of what you're suggesting, because I'll be fielding those phone calls when they don't like it.
You can send them to Jason now.
I know, I will. I'll be
Yeah.
like, well, the Parks Commission, but I try not to do that, obviously. But things, some of you have experienced where we thought it was a great idea to have a dog park here, but oh wait, the neighbors didn't like it. Or in another neighborhood where we put up a outdoor structure, open air shelter, neighbors didn't like it. I mean, we can't please all the people all the time, but it's just important to be mindful. They being the residents, I believe, are expecting a playground at this point of some kind, so.
The one thing I would just say, I like the Ninja Warrior theme, but there are a bunch of very young families there, very young kids. So there needs to be a balance. If you're going to do some of the Ninja Warrior stuff, you got to do something that a 2-3-year-old can do as well.
No different than the regional park, which is try to cater to small to
Exactly.
as old as you can that would be interested, along with some green space to be able to then movies or whatever the case may be. But if we can hit all those different ages, that's a home run in my book to do that.
Yeah, and especially as the neighborhoods evolve. I mean, in the neighborhood I live in, it used to be that, and now the kiddos are, driving, and the new families move in. So there is a constant, I guess, change in the dynamics and diversity. So I agree with Dave on that.
First time I heard. Why did
No.
you say that?
I don't know. I'll
Have
think about
any
that.
of you been to the park in Ankeny zip line? It's on the other side of the interstate,
Yeah.
maybe off First or 36 there. And it is really cool. And then with this, I struggle with well, where would be the better place to put it? But I think the regional park would be good because it would be a big attraction and people would like to come and, really access it. But I think that's a really fun idea and I have no idea what the cost behind that would be, but, and I know when we went, had my 2-year-old nephew on it and kind of controlled the pace of it, and then the teenagers on it. So,
Yeah, my in-laws live up there, and we've had all age of kids use
Yeah.
it. So.
Oh, good.
Any other questions or comments for Jason?
That's just Deer Creek Park.
Oh,
Deer Creek?
yeah.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
There are other, I'm not sure if this falls under this agenda item or not, but are there other park improvements or construction going on this summer? I know this is when you wanted feedback on it.
No, so in fiscal year 22, this is one. Yeah,
We tried to focus and complete something because we've done a lot of little things here and there, but trying to put a bunch of money into one, complete it, and then kind of move on that way because it didn't feel like we're getting any traction. So it's a good question, but this is kind of the project, I guess.
Anything else? Great. We'll move on to item number 7 then. Approve moving July 5, 2021 Parks meeting to July 6, 2021, due to the Independence Day holiday. I would just take a motion to do that.
I'll motion.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion of that? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Great. Item number 8, approve moving September 6, 2021 Parks meeting to September 7th, 2021 due to the Labor Day holiday. I'll have a motion.
I'll motion.
And a second.
I'll motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to number 9, which is reports and particulars. We'll begin with our council liaison.
I would say through you guys have put a lot of time and effort into the parks, the regional parks plan, and really beautification of all the parks, if you will. Of course, what stands out is the regional parks plan, and council was, if I may speak for everybody on the council, just really, again, impressed with the multitude of different things that were included based on surveys, based on input, just all the hard work and meetings and whatnot that has gone on is really does not go without notice and appreciation. It's a lot of work, and it's kind of just begun, right? Because the paper's really not easy. I mean, you have to have a foundation to build on, but now it'll be, how are we going to fund this, and how does that move forward? And with that could be some incredibly, need to be some passion involved there with, depending how the funding source is. We may be the ones trying to get that in whatever way it could be. So just really wanted to give our thanks, and I can speak for the council and all the work that you've done over this, because it was not a small undertaking. And just to get this, I'm excited about this, and connecting to High Trust will be it'll be unbelievable for this community. I don't think we really understand what the impact will be, that this is the bridge essentially that's going to finally get us there. So just thank you all for that. And certainly if there's any questions, you could ask me now about anything, any thoughts on the council, but it was all positive. It was just a lot of clarifying questions, essentially, is what it was.
With the funding, do we have a plan for kind of promoting this and getting the community pumped for it, and start thinking about, ways we can try to greatly raise some funds for it? I know this maybe goes hand in hand with the Friends of the Parks group, which I don't know if they on that, but
yeah, I think that would be the kind of what I was alluding to, and the next step, and what we'll need to all rally around. That's not only even how to do it, but the execution of spreading word with that. The funding part is always the most interesting, and not really knowing what the next step will be. But that'll be coming soon, because we can't sit on this very long. We need to keep the momentum going and start that wave of excitement, if you will, and then we have to follow through. We have to hit it while it's right there and strike while the iron's hot. Otherwise, we're going to lose whatever momentum we get at that point. So it'll be an all hands on deck type of another good question, but TBD.
Any other questions? Cool, thank you, Dave.
Absolutely.
I
think we'll switch the next two around and go with staff first.
Sure. I've just got a few things. I'll start with Monica's thing there. So yes, we should have our Friends of Polk City Parks 501c3 in place by the end of this fiscal year. So just to kind of refine that a little bit. So that will be an organization separate from the Parks Commission, whose kind of purpose is just the added advocacy of parks in town, whether that's through fundraising or volunteerism. So yeah, I think that would be It's possible that some people that are super parks advocates might want to be in both, but no, it would also be a good chance for other folks to come in as well. You know, we'd be looking at, you know, them as a group being able to identify, you know, we would like to fundraise for X, and then they go out and they do it through like signature events, and maybe like, you know, trees in the park, benches in the park, you know, different ways of building up their account and then being able to go for grants with matching funds as a separate organization. Then, so that, yeah, that's kind of how they play into everything.
So Jason, with that, if I may, when you talk about some of the companies in town, some of the, you know, the Casey's, the come and goes that seem to be the stars, that would be something that Friends of the City that's would be able to solicit on behalf, not of the city, but as, and this is not a rhetorical question. I don't know the answer. I think this is correct though. Or we could say, Quick Start, this could be your field, right? This would be Quick Start Field.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be. Well, if they want to do the whole thing, Quick Start Park. But, but essentially, that would be a nice app to,
Yep.
and not have the city directly going to, yeah, that's what.
Let's see, kind of on the same line. Last time I met with you guys, I gave you an update on that sponsorship that me and the library did in tandem this year. And after our last meeting, I did get a 12th sponsorship, so I wanted to make sure to give kudos to the Polk City women for also doing a sponsorship of Parks and Rec in this calendar year. So that brings us up to 12 sponsors for $2,250. So thank you, Polk City women. And then I just wanted to make you guys aware of a few items coming up in our parks this month. So Chief Sipker and the police are doing a summer kickoff party on Friday the 25th from 5:30 to 8:30. This is going to kind of be their version of National Night Out. They're going to do it a little bit earlier, a little bit out on their own. So they'll kind of do the touch a truck, see a police car, you know, thing that is so popular with the little kids. They will have some food, a few food vendors around, characters walking around, just a fun night out. Hopefully, as we kind of keep returning more and more towards normal.
Don't
And
forget the
Is that
dunk
gonna be
tank.
right,
there is a dunk tank.
is that gonna be right here?
It'll be on the square this year. Yes, there will be a dunk tank, so you can throw a ball to dunk our chief of police, maybe our mayor. I don't know if they got him.
I don't know who's gonna manage that.
Maybe particular council members. I don't know what they got.
Can't
But
see
anyway,
anymore.
so yeah, it should be a fun night out. And then when that winds down at 8:30, my first movie in the park will take place on the square. Right around 8:30, 8:45, and the first movie is Trolls this year. And then the next morning, June 26th, will be our first yoga in the park. That is a free event thanks to the sponsors I recently talked about. And that'll be at 8 o'clock in the morning at the square. So you can come and have food with police, watch a movie, and then come do yoga the next day, all on the square. So it's fun to be getting back to normal, being able to do events this summer. It really is. I think that's all I've got as staff.
Any questions on any of that? Okay, so thank you, Jason. We'll move on to commission members then. Anything commission members would like to share?
Everyone wants to go home. Just
So
kidding.
I will just mention it, that at our last meeting, we talked about the community visioning was going forward and that we had selected our 4 different focus areas and we're planning to meet as a committee. We have had one of those committee meetings. That was community visioning murals. We have another one yet tomorrow night. That will be community visioning signs and other projects. And then yet to come will be the wayfinding committee and the trailhead committee. So we are moving forward with that. I would just also mention that the small group of people who are meeting monthly in connection with the High Trestle Trail Connector continue to meet, and progress continues to be made in that area as well. And then I just wanted to make a comment and just say a shout out or a thank you to all of those people who are taking care of our parks, mowing them, etc., in this very hot weather. So that's very much appreciated. Parks look beautiful. Okay, if we have no other comments, our last item of business, number 10, is to adjourn until July 6, 2021. I'll ask for a motion
I'll motion.
and a second.
Second.
Any comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion approved.